So let's talk about in-laws for a moment. Does thinking about setting boundaries with your in-laws make you sweat a little bit? Then this video is for you. Now, this isn't about them being terrible people. Well, sometimes, yes. But I'm sure they can be lovely and perhaps they do mean well. Then why is it so hard to set boundaries? Let's explore together. Maybe you've said yes to things that you didn't want to do. Maybe you've stayed quiet to avoid tension. Maybe you've complained to your partner, but nothing's happened, nothing's changed. And then the guilt kicks in because you don't want it to be difficult. You don't want to cause drama. And you don't want to put your partner in the middle. But you're also tired of feeling uncomfortable in your own life. I'm sure many of you can resonate with those examples. Boundaries with in-laws are complicated because you're not just dealing with any other person. You're dealing with family, loyalty, certain expectations, yes, and that quiet pressure to just keep the peace. Your nervous system might be thinking, if I speak up, this could affect my relationship. But that's also a lot to carry. So let's talk about the guilt, because this is where most people get stuck. You might think, for example, they've done so much for us. This is just how families are. I don't want to come across as ungrateful. But guilt doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It usually means that you're breaking an old pattern. If you grew up learning that keeping the peace was safer than speaking up, your body learned that boundaries equal conflict. So now, even when nothing bad is actually happening, your body reacts as if it is. That tight feeling, that voice saying, don't make this harder than it needs to be. That's not weakness, that's conditioning. So let me check if any of this sounds familiar. They show up without notice. That's a big one. They comment on your parenting or life choices. They give advice you didn't ask for. They insert themselves into decisions that aren't theirs. And you sit there thinking, am I overreacting? Is this worth bringing up? Or should I just let it go? Here's something very important to consider. Boundaries, they're not about controlling your in-laws. They're about protecting your peace. And healthy boundaries don't require long explanations. As an example, if in-laws impose onto you decisions, you can respond with, that doesn't work for me. If they come unannounced, now this is a big one. This is a very common one. You can respond with, we would appreciate it if you could call before visiting, so we can make sure it's a good time for everyone. This is a very common one when in-laws come unannounced. I see women a lot getting criticized with their cooking abilities. Now, if an in-law does criticize your cooking, what can you respond with? You can respond with something like this. If you don't enjoy it, you're welcome to pass. No pressure. Men get more criticized with their careers or their businesses. So if you do find yourself, there's an in-law that's criticizing your employment, your job, or your business, you can respond with this. I understand you have an opinion on my career, but my wife or girlfriend and I are happy with my current path, and we won't be taking further suggestions on it. Or if they complain on your parenting, respond with, we've got it handled. Never over-explain or justify your response. Don't apologize. Keep your answers short and simple. Keep it clean. What about your partner's role? What happens when boundaries are crossed, but your partner doesn't do anything? So let's talk about your partner. What's their role, whether it's your wife or your husband? And let me be very clear about this. In-laws, they are not your responsibility. They are your partner's responsibility. And they play a major role in what they do. So why is this so important? When you ask your partner to handle boundaries with their own parents, in-laws are more likely to be understanding and respect your point of view, and they will be less likely to be resentful towards you. So, what should your partner actually do? He or she should take ownership of the conversation with their own parents. If your partner says they're just sensitive or that's how they are, your partner may have learned early on that challenging their parents, their own parents, can lead to guilt, emotional withdrawal, anger. Anger is a big one. Tension that can last for days and weeks. So your partner's nervous system learned that it's safer not to rock the boat. Many adults are still unconsciously operating as the peacekeeper, the compliant child, or the emotional buffer. Your partner may feel like they're betraying their own parents, even when they're married. This isn't logic, this is conditioning. So what can you say when your partner doesn't create boundaries between their parents and the relationship? Here's a simple example. If your partner says, that's just how they are, you can say, I feel unsupported. I don't need you to fight. I need to feel like we're a team. There's a big difference there. What would help me is you stepping up when comments are made, or backing me up when comments are made instead of minimizing it. I'm not asking you to choose between me and your parents. I'm asking you to choose our relationship when boundaries are crossed. The language that you use with your person, whether your wife or your husband, is very important. It's not you versus them or you versus your partner. It's about being a team. We are a team. This is our household. This is what supports our relationship. That shift alone can change everything. So be very discerning what language you use with your person. Needing boundaries with in-laws doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It doesn't mean you're difficult, and it doesn't mean that you don't care. It means that you're an adult and creating a life that feels sustainable. If nothing happens, if boundaries are not set, the stress can start to affect you. And this can lead to self-doubt. It can lead to overthinking and questioning everything. So what happens with anxiety? What can anxiety do to the mind? You may notice racing, looping thoughts, constant what-if thinking, difficulty concentrating and focusing, over-analyzing conversations, feeling on edge and restless. The mind becomes so focused on preventing danger that you're never present. You're always constantly in the future. What about the body? What happens to your body when stress is so high? Well, some common physical symptoms can be the tightness of the chest, shallow breathing, tension in the jaw, shoulders, and the stomach, increased heart rate, fatigue, exhaustion, difficulty sleeping. The body acts as if something bad is about to happen. When boundaries are not supported, your nervous system stays on alert. You might notice tension before family events, replaying conversations afterwards, anticipating criticism, feeling on edge even when nothing has happened. This isn't overthinking, it's hypervigilance. At some point, if your person, your partner, husband or wife, doesn't support you, or if they don't set boundaries, speaking up may feel even pointless. It may feel like, what's the point of talking? And some common symptoms can be going quiet, emotional withdrawal, numbing, keeping the peace, but at what cost? What gets suppressed doesn't disappear, it turns inward. When your partner doesn't step in, resentment builds up, even when you love this person. A relationship is meant to feel like a secure base. When support is inconsistent, the nervous system learns, I'm on my own here. That lack of safety can affect vulnerability, emotional closeness, sexual intimacy, a willingness to share feelings. So you start to close off. If your partner doesn't step up, then perhaps couples counseling could help. If this resonated, you're not alone. So many people struggle with this quietly. And remember, boundaries, they're not about pushing family away. It's about making relationships healthier, including in-laws. Remember, at the end of the day, you deserve peace and calm within your relationship. If this helped, please let me know down below in the comments. I would love to know what your experience has been dealing with in-laws. I wish you a beautiful day. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Samantha Garcia, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.